National Nutrition Month, and the theme for this year is Discovering the Power of Nutrition. I am Natasha Falgren. I am the Consortium Manager for the Healthy Start Enhanced San Bernardino program. The reason why we're hosting this webinar this month is we conducted a community survey at the end of last year, and we asked community members what topics they would like more education around. And one of those topics was nutrition. So this month, we're going to be hosting this nutrition webinar, which will specifically focus on the pregnancy and the postpartum period. And then in May, we will be hosting during National Women's Month another nutrition webinar, which will be focused on the entire reproductive lifespan. So we hope you can join us then as well. But I wanted to turn it over now to our CSM students, let them introduce themselves and talk more about their partnership with us, and then they will dive into their presentation. All right, I'll turn it over to you guys.
Hi, my name is Anissa.
Sapna.
Yeah. I'm Megan.
So today we're going to be talking about why nutrition matters in pregnancy. Megan and Sapna, I don't want to talk about Change program.
We're just gonna say a quick little thing about the Change program. So our Change program part of CUSM is essentially trying to establish our roles in health systems and professional practice and learn how to communicate with our community through community health advocacy, navigation, and engagement. So the first few domains of this practice and how we're going to go about it is learn about the health system science, specifically through healthcare policy and economics, the value in healthcare and the population, and public and social determinants of health. And we're also look to engage the community in medical ethics and health equity.
Awesome. Can you each specify what specific fields of study you plan to go into once you finish school?
Absolutely. I can start since I'm unmuted, but I'm really interested in OB-GYN as of right now after medical school.
Same here. I'm definitely interested in becoming an OB-GYN.
As for me, I'm currently interested in internal medicine.
Thanks for sharing that.
Okay, so we'll get started into our presentation about why nutrition matters in pregnancy, because it's March, National Nutrition Month. So hi everyone, like we already said, we're medical students at CUSM, so thank you so much for being here today or watching this later. We're really excited to talk to you about something that has a huge impact on not only your health, but your baby's health, and that's nutrition during pregnancy. So today isn't really about, trying to be perfect with your diet. It's really about understanding small, realistic changes that can make a huge difference for you and for your baby. And just go next slide. All right, so why does nutrition matter so much during pregnancy? What you eat, like I said, doesn't just affect your own energy and health. It will also help directly support your baby's growth and development, including vital organs, like the brain, bones. Good nutrition can also help lower the risk of complications during pregnancy, so it can help support a smoother recovery after delivery and even impact your baby's long-term health. So really, food becomes one of the most powerful tools that we have during pregnancy, and that's why nutrition matters. And we'll go into the agenda. So a quick overview of what we're going to be discussing today. We'll start with how to build a healthy, balanced diet, so what eating healthy looks like. Then we of course need to talk about food safety, because food safety is important, as avoiding infections is just as important as getting the right nutrients. We're also going to be talking about prenatal supplements and special topics like alcohol and caffeine. And then at the end, we'll share some helpful resources and answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask for Natasha and Gloria's participation here. We're gonna debunk some myths. So one of the first myths is that I cannot eat seafood. I think this is the most common myth that people and misconception that people will have during pregnancy. Oh no, you can't eat sushi, however will you live? but actually, um, there is some benefit versus the risks of eating fish. We're not avoiding fish altogether, we're simply choosing the right fish. So, cooked low mercury fish is healthy and safe. So, salmon, cod, shrimp, sardines, this kind of fish. However, raw high mercury seafood should be avoided, like tuna, mackerel, and swordfish. Um, like canned light tuna, especially, a lot of people ask about, but that is okay in moderation, but definitely should not be included like every single day. And the reason why fish is actually very helpful in pregnancy is because it contains a compound called DHA, which is omega-3s, and it does support fetal brain and retinal development. Okay, the next myth is that I can freely drink alcohol after my baby is born. So this is a common misconception as alcohol does peak in breast milk at the same time as blood alcohol. So how you're feeding your baby and your recovery specifically determines whether or not you should drink. Alcohol does pass into the breast milk, but with the right timing, you can still drink while breastfeeding. So you should especially be careful if you're taking postpartum medications like sedatives or pain meds, especially opioids, as a lot of people do take this to help like get over any like cesarean sections, surgeries, or just the normal pain of childbirth. So we'll talk about this a little bit later, but really quickly, there is no need to pump and dump when you're drinking alcohol. It's essentially just timing your drinks um in a way before you're feeding. So the main rule is to wait 2 hours before the next feed. There are some safety nuances associated with alcohol that aren't even chemically indicative, but sleep deprivation that a lot of mothers suffer combined with alcohol can lead to like baby negligence and increased risk when handling the baby. The third myth is that you have to eat for two. Um, I kind of understand where this misconception came from as you are carrying two people. However, during pregnancy, only about 300 to 400, 450 extra calories is needed, especially during the second and third trimester. We want to focus on moderate weight gain to support your pregnancy, but excessive amounts can cause complications. You're looking for quality of food rather than quantity, and you're looking especially for the nutrition-rich foods over high-calories ones. Overeating risks include like just gestational diabetes, where you get diabetes while pregnant, and larger babies, which we call macrosomia, can lead to delivery complications like difficulty having your baby vaginally. However, there are some other, on the flip side, we have like low birth weight, and that comes from undereating, which is also very detrimental to the baby. So overall, we want to think of it as eating smarter and not more, definitely not eating for two.
Awesome. Okay, so I wanted to briefly show what this healthy eating plate looks like. This is from Harvard's medical school, and I like this image because it kind of talks about the importance of each aspect. So when it comes to eating healthy, it's really about a balance and a variety and not about restriction. Um, so a healthy plate will include fruits and vegetables, whole grains, protein, and dairy or dairy alternatives. Um, Protein can come from several different things, chicken, fish, eggs, beans, nuts. So it's important to include a variety of these. And you also do definitely want to limit any foods that are high in added sugars or saturated fats. Of course, this is not to say that anyone's diet is perfect. I think that's a very difficult thing, but to continue to incorporate health promoting foods versus I like to call foods that are high in either added sugars, saturated fats, or sodium, maybe not as health promoting. So really focusing on choosing those health promoting foods. And then, like Megan said, only 300 to 450 extra calories per day. One thing I didn't mention on this slide is the importance of drinking a lot of water. So staying hydrated is super important. They say 8 to 10 cups a day. And this is going to help with your digestion. It's going to help prevent constipation, which is a common symptom during pregnancy. as well as support, the fluid, the amniotic fluid. So yeah, I'll be sharing more about the foods and resources as to whether this food is good or health promoting on the last slide as well.
Okay, awesome. So this slide just has a QR code. If you guys want to take a second to go ahead and scan that, it's a pretty great resource. It has general dietary guidelines for like a general diet as well, but it also has specifics in terms of like the prenatal period, the postnatal period. It also specifies on like once your child is born, like what to feed them when. And so it has a lot of like neat little like specific guidelines that you guys might be curious about, and it's a really good resource to just like save on your phone or laptop or whatever you're viewing this on. Um, I'll give you guys like, I don't know, maybe like 15, 20 seconds to go ahead and scan that. Something that I found interesting from this was it also gives like a specific time frame that you're supposed to introduce allergens to your child. I've always heard that parents are always nervous to introduce things like peanuts or like shellfish to their kids. But it turns out it's like around month 6 or so that you're supposed to like slowly start to introduce these allergens, see whether it's like a potential that they might be allergic. But it's always recommended to consult your healthcare provider before starting to introduce them to see what's the best way to introduce these foods. Yeah, I think we can move on from this slide. Okay, cool. So this is just like a sample 5-day meal plan considering what we've been talking about. Again, this is not meant to be like a perfect plan or anything strict. It's just ideas because diet can be pretty overwhelming if you don't have an idea of what to eat. So this is just some inspiration for you to maybe take if you're at the grocery store in the next few days and you're wondering on like what to grab. So I can walk everybody through it, just like explaining what is good about these foods, why we're recommending meal plans like these. So each day includes a mix of grains, protein, dairy, fruits, and veggies, which are especially important during pregnancy and also after delivery for both your health and the health of your baby. And so as we go through each day, just notice how each meal includes different food groups. And so grains give you energy, protein helps your baby grow and helps support healing after birth. Dairy can provide calcium for strong bones. And then fruits and veggies will help with vitamins, fiber, and help prevent constipation. And so these small contributions throughout the day really end up adding up in the long run. And so starting out with day 1, we have for breakfast, we have some oatmeal, berries, and almonds. And so this is a great meal because it provides steady energy through the oats. The berries provide vitamins like vitamin C, and then also the almonds add some healthy fats. Moving on to lunch, we have a grilled chicken salad, and this helps with lean protein and veggies, which helps with iron and digestion. And then dinner has salmon and brown rice and broccoli. And salmon is especially important because it has those omega-3 fats that support your baby's brain development, like Megan had mentioned earlier. And then the snacks, some banana and nuts, is a simple way to keep energy up between meals. Going on to day 2. Day 2, the breakfast is scrambled eggs with spinach and whole wheat toast with oranges or orange juice. So eggs are a great source of protein and choline, which supports baby's brain development. And then spinach adds some iron into your diet. Moving on to lunch, the lunch is a turkey sandwich with cheese in it, which is an easy and affordable lunch, which can give both protein as well as calcium. Moving on to dinner, we have a chicken stir fry with brown rice, which adds veggies and fiber. And then for the snack for day 2, we have some Greek yogurt with honey, which is high in protein and calcium, which are both great for bone health. And then moving on to day 3, we have breakfast with Greek yogurt and some granola and berries, and this combines protein, fiber, and some natural sweetness. Lunch is a bean and cheese burrito with a side salad, and beans are a great plant-based protein source and also high in fiber, which can help with constipation during pregnancy. And then dinner includes ground turkey tacos with cabbage and avocado, and this helps with the balance of healthy fats, protein, and veggies. And then the snack on this day is apples with peanut butter, which combines fiber and healthy fats to keep you full. And then day 4, breakfast is a smoothie with milk, banana, peanut butter, and oats. And this is especially helpful if you don't like eating a full meal. It's super quick because you can just whisk it together in the blender, but it's still super nutritious. And then lunch is going to use leftovers from all of like our previous meals, like a turkey taco bowl, and this saves both time and money. Dinner is lentil soup with bread, carrots, and hummus, and this is a great meal, especially if you're like vegan or vegetarian. Lentils are super rich in iron and protein, which is important during pregnancy. And then the snack is string cheese with whole grain crackers, giving you calcium and energy. And then finally, moving on to day 5, our breakfast will be oatmeal with banana and peanut butter, which is filling and also an affordable option. And then lunch is tuna salad on whole wheat toast, and this helps provide protein and healthy fats. And then dinner is baked chicken with potatoes and green beans, which is a simple, balanced plate with protein, carbs, and veggies. And then the snack is trail mix, which is super easy to carry if you're on your feet all day and then also provides energy. And so overall, this meal plan shows that you don't need to have like super expensive foods or complicated foods to eat well. The goal is just to include a mix of all these food groups throughout the day. You're also trying to just make sure you're eating regularly, snacking regularly throughout the day to maintain that energy, and then choosing simple and accessible foods. And then most importantly, it's great to do what works for you personally in your lifestyle. And everyone's dietary needs can look different. For example, I'm vegetarian, and so a lot of these might not apply to me. And so you can swap out foods like chicken or fish for options like beans, lentils, tofu, eggs, or dairy to still get enough protein and nutrients in the day. And even small changes like adding like a fruit or including a protein in a meal can make a big difference in the long run. And I think that's about it for this slide. Okay, and then we're going to segue into talking about food safety during pregnancy. And so maybe we can like take a moment to like reflect on what foods we think might be unsafe for our baby. Or maybe you guys can drop it in the chat and hopefully we will talk about it in the next few slides, or if we haven't, we can address it at the end during the Q&A.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about preventing food poisoning. So, during pregnancy, your immune system will naturally change to help protect your baby. So, specifically, your body slightly lowers certain immune responses so it just doesn't mistake the baby as something foreign. But because of that, it can also make it a little harder to fight off certain infections, especially bacteria that come from food. So, um, it's the need for safe food and safe food handling and cooking practices is extremely vital. Um, and yes, so the way we're going to talk about this is I think we're kind of going to go into the steps as to why, the steps as to how we can ensure that we can prevent food poisoning. I want to also mention that some food poisoning symptoms will include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, that can start from anywhere from like a few hours to a few days. So the goal is prevention, though. So we'll walk through that. Next slide. I think I saw something mentioned in the chat. I wanted to shout it out really fast because I think it looks it's unsafe to eat queso fresco. Many new mothers or experienced mothers don't know that. Surprises them all the time. Thank you so much for sharing that, Stephanie. That's very important to know, especially because it's a common food, especially in my family, because my mom's Mexican, so it's good to know. Thank you. Okay, so first step, wash your hands. Of course, this means washing them often as well before cooking or eating. It also means cleaning kitchen surfaces regularly, using like clean towels or paper towels. Making sure to rinse fruit and vegetables well, even scrubbing them if you need to. And then something that I like to do is whenever I have like canned food, I like to clean the top of the canned food before opening it. So these small on sorry. Oh, on the queso fresco. Got it. And these small habits will go a long way from preventing bacteria from spreading. You can go next. Okay, second step is to separate. So raw foods like poultry, seafood, eggs, meat, those can carry bacteria, so it's important to keep them separate from other foods. For example, like using other cutting boards for raw meat or fruits and vegetables, and then making sure when you're storing food to keep raw items separate in your fridge, and grocery bags as well to avoid cross-contamination. So this is just to prevent harmful bacteria from spreading to foods that are ready to eat.
And then step 3 is all about making sure your food is cooked safely to prevent food poisoning, which is especially important during pregnancy when your immune system is a little bit more sensitive. So one of the best things that you can do is to use a food thermometer. They're like around like $10 in like Walmart or like any grocery store or Amazon. This helps to make sure your food reaches a safe internal temperature, so harmful bacteria are killed. And so sometimes food can look done on the outside, but it may not still be fully cooked on the inside. So checking the temperature adds just like an extra layer of safety. And when cooking foods like chicken, turkey, or ground meat, it's important to make sure they're cooked all the way through and not pink in the middle. And then for eggs, it's important to cook until the yolk are white and they're firm. And then moving on to step 4. Your fridge should be kept at ideally 40 degrees Fahrenheit or below, and this helps slow down, again, bacterial growth and helps keep your food safe for longer. So after cooking or buying food, you should try to refrigerate it within 2 hours, and if it's a hot day, like over 85, 90 degrees, you should try to refrigerate within 1 hour, ideally. When it comes to thawing frozen foods, try to avoid leaving them out on the counter. That can allow bacteria to grow on the outside while the inside is still frozen. And so instead, there are 3 safe ways that you can thaw food. So one is to just pop it in the refrigerator a few hours before you're going to cook it. You can also thaw it in cold water or in the microwave, and those are safer than just leaving it out on the counter. And then if you use cold water or the microwave, make sure to cook the food right away. And then finally, for leftovers, it helps to divide larger portions into smaller, more shallow containers so they cool down faster in the fridge. And these steps are especially important during pregnancy because foodborne illnesses can be more serious during this period and affect both you and your baby.
Now we're going to talk about typical food poisoning, the safe internal temperatures and time periods and symptoms. So first of all, there are a lot of pregnancy-specific risks that have to do with food poisoning. One specific bacteria that we always talk about is E. coli and Listeria. E. coli, I'm sure you guys all have heard like outbreaks in vegetables and like recalls on things. I know for a period of time it was really like famous that Chipotle had an E. coli outbreak. But today we're going to talk more about Listeria. So Listeria specifically can cross the placenta. So essentially everything you eat will go into your baby, and Listeria can cross that border into your baby. Another one includes and Listeria is usually associated with like dairies. For Toxoplasma, which is another bacteria, it is found in undercooked meat and soil exposure. So a lot of root vegetables, or if you're not cooking your meat all the way, as I know we all like that medium rare on our steaks, those are not very safe for you while you're in pregnancy. So specifically the time period that we have here, food poisoning can begin as early as 20 minutes after eating, which you usually find like, oh, I have stomachache after I ate lunch. And then symptoms can also present 1 to 3 days after eating the food and can continue as long as a week. Other signs and symptoms that we see with typical food poisoning include nausea and vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, and flu-like symptoms like fever, chills, headaches, and body aches. These are all like very mildly concerning. However, if you start presenting with fever or dehydration or even blood in your diarrhea, that is when it becomes a little bit more concerning. So, when should we seek care or go to a doctor, go to the emergency room, especially while pregnant? This is going to be when your fever is higher than 100.4 and you're unable to keep fluids down, if there's decreased fetal movement, or if the symptoms are lasting more than 2 to 3 days. So for like someone who is not pregnant, if the symptoms go on as long as a week, honestly, it's very self-mediated. Like you are able to control your own pain and fever with like Advil or Tylenol and then just get a lot of fluids down. But as a pregnant woman, if you're unable to keep fluids down, this dehydration poses a big risk as to what Anissa was saying before. You're losing like the volume of your amniotic fluid, so your baby could have a difficult time breathing or moving around. So this is when you would want to go to the emergency room or urgent care. And this risk of dehydration is honestly the biggest risk for your baby. So we will recommend water, oral rehydration solutions like Pedialyte, or you would probably get an IV if you went into the ER. However, most cases of typical food poisoning are very mild, but we take extra caution in pregnancy just so we don't affect anything with your baby. And then to the left, we have a table of safe internal temperatures. So a little blurry, but you can see for some of the meats, it gives you an exact temperature where you should be cooking it to, and you can measure it with the meat thermometer. It's I think the most important ones are going to be like beef, ground meat, poultry, and eggs. These are the ones that people usually undercook, like just based on taste or how they like it. But during pregnancy, we want to avoid undercooking. Okay, next we have prenatal supplements. I'm pretty sure you guys have all heard of this, but almost everyone who is pregnant will need a prenatal vitamin, even with a good diet. So these are some of the vitamins and minerals used for a healthy pregnancy. Usual contents of they usually give a combination pill for to take as a supplement. So these include folic acid, which prevents neural tube defects of the brain and spinal cord. So essentially, as your baby is developing, the initial like nervous system and spine and brain develop from the neural tube. So folic acid prevents any defects of it. One possible defect of a neural tube or one possible neural tube defect is spina bifida when the baby's skin on the back does not close properly. And it's a really scary condition to have as a mother and for the baby because it can increase risk of infection, but more so than that, it can lead to like paralysis or difficulty developing properly in the future. Next, we have iron, which allows for increased blood production and helps prevent anemia. There's also calcium, which develops the baby's bones. Vitamin D, which helps absorb the calcium. And then DHA, which I talked about before, omega-3 fatty acid. And this allows for fetal brain and eye development. And there's also other vitamins like vitamin B and C and iodine and zinc. And normally you would take a multivitamin supplement while breastfeeding. I think for the most important one here, obviously, is folic acid, but one that is often overlooked is omega-3. Um, so because omega-3 is in a lot of fish and a lot of pregnant people are under the misconception that you cannot be eating fish, they're not increasing their omega-3 intake as much as they should. For these supplements, it's important to take them with food just in case there's side effects of nausea. And specifically, we want to take iron supplements with a extended period of time in between taking the calcium supplements, as there is better absorption where they're not taken together. Um, I know that it seems like a lot of things you're already buying a lot of food for your diet, and then now you have to buy prenatal supplements, which are honestly can be quite expensive. So store brands such as the ones in Target, like Nature Made, have been around for years and are really more affordable than some of these brand ones or some of these gummy ones that you may be seeing on social media. And I think the gummy ones are good because they can be helpful if you're not or if swallowing pills is difficult for you, or you just don't tolerate pills well. But gummies are an option. They are usually more expensive. So on the top right, this one is the Target brand that I know a lot of pregnant mothers are taking. Okay, just to talk a little bit more about folic acid, I cannot emphasize this enough. It is so important to have folic acid before your pregnancy and during your pregnancy and even after. So the neural tube that I was talking about before that leads to the nervous system closes by week 4. So unfortunately, a lot of patients that become pregnant don't know when they become pregnant, or they don't know that they're pregnant yet. So the pre-phase of taking folic acid before pregnancy is often missed. Um, so we need to, like, when you do realize that you become pregnant, it's important to increase your intake of folic acid right away. So, as I was talking about before, folic acid is vitamin B. It prevents serious birth defects like neural tube defects. Neural tube defects lead to brain and spina bifida and spinal cord abnormalities like anencephaly, which is the top of your head doesn't close or your brain doesn't form, and spina bifida. And then folic acid added to staple foods to help people with daily needs. So, for example, there are things like enriched breads, pasta, rice, and breakfast cereals. And then specifically fortified corn masa flour is an ingredient to make a lot of things like tortillas and tamales, and this does have folic acid in it. For people that are this is like their second or third pregnancy, or essentially just have had a prior pregnancy in the past, it is really important to increase your intake of folic acid more so than your first pregnancy. Um, Additionally, people with diabetes or obesity, a lot of the folic acid is getting uptaken by the mother, so you want to increase your intake even more so it gets to the baby. So while diet alone, which is what we were talking about, is really important, it's usually not enough, and that's why we need these supplements and this folic acid. And it's one of the most simplest way to prevent any serious birth defects. Like all you have to do is pop that pill every single morning. Yeah. Okay, there are a couple special cases. One of them that, as I talked about before, is alcohol. Obviously, we don't want to drink alcohol while pregnant or trying for pregnancy, as that would lead to a lot of things like fetal alcohol syndrome, and it's very linked to adverse effects. So, no amount of alcohol is safe for your baby while you're pregnant. When you're breastfeeding, so after you've given birth, the rule of thumb is to wait 2 hours per drink before breastfeeding again. So, an example is one drink, which can constitute like one shot of liquor or like one glass of wine or one 12-ounce beer. You have that alcohol and then you wait for 2 hours and then you're able to breastfeed and pump again. This equation works because alcohol leaves breast milk at the same time it leaves the blood. Breast milk is basically derived from parts that it's siphoned from the blood. So if the alcohol is not in the blood, it will not be in your breast milk. I know a lot of also people also use a breathalyzer just to make sure they're under the normal like limit for alcohol, which is I think it's like 0.08. So if you're safe to drive or like you're sober enough to drive, which is what the police people test you with the breathalyzer for, then you're sober enough to feed. For food allergies, there's no real need for maternal restriction during pregnancy or while lactating to keep the baby from getting food allergies, as in when you're breastfeeding, you don't have to restrict your diet in any way. However, like Sapna did touch on when to introduce these allergens or potential allergens to your baby. So that is at a different time period. For caffeine, you want to reduce your caffeine intake while you're pregnant, limiting it to about 200 milligrams per day or 1 cup of coffee. I know that this sounds a little bit crazy, especially for the people, some of us that are working, but this is also really important because it can prevent conditions like tachycardia in your baby or hypertension. And the fourth case is to avoid eating or drinking these seemingly random items, but like unpasteurized raw juice or milk, raw sprouts, or soft cheese from unpasteurized milk. A lot of these include bacteria and can cause infection, specifically because they're unpasteurized. Like I talked about before, Listeria is a common bacteria that infects these dairy products like cheese and milk, and especially because they're unpasteurized, they're not cleansed of these bacteria.
Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you guys so much. I did have a question. So when we were talking earlier about the meal plans, we were talking about making a sandwich and things like that. And I remember when I was pregnant, I was told to stay away from cold cuts because of something that was in it. So I just wanted to confirm it's safe to eat cold cuts before and after pregnancy?
Yeah, so cold cuts kind of does fall into the category of like cold deli meats, which does have to do, some of them can be have like latent listeria in them. So like if you were to get it from a butcher shop, I would say that it's unsafe. However, a lot of things that are like packaged, such as like in Target, is a lot like goes under a lot more regulations. So I would say that would be safe. Like those are safe cold cuts to eat.
Okay. All right, thank you. Um, does anyone have any questions before I ask Stephanie something?
We just have one more resource slide after. I'm not too sure if
Oh,
you
go
wanted
ahead.
to keep the recording on for when we asked
Yes.
talk to
Yeah,
Stephanie. So I just
sure.
wanted to be sure.
Yeah, for sure.
We can just quickly show it and then we'll go back to the Q&A slide maybe. This is so these are some resources from the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. So these are trusted, easy to understand information on nutrition during pregnancy. We also included a QR code and it links directly to a really helpful website and guide that basically has all these questions. And like if you wanted to know how much iron to have in a day or how much folic acid and you wanted to get that information quickly, this is a good link and resource. But yeah, thank you so much for your time. And yeah, we're happy to answer any questions and talk
Thank
more.
you. And you can leave that slide up, the resource slide. You can leave it up while I talk. So Stephanie, if you don't mind coming off mute, it is still being recorded. If you're comfortable with it, you can just say no if you're not in the chat. I just wanted you. Oh, hi. Do you mind telling everyone, one, if you don't mind sharing, where you work and your role, and can you share some more information about the Sweet Success education and how we can have access to it?
Sure. I work for Unicare Community Health Center, and I am a CPHW, which is a comprehensive perinatal social worker. We provide all the education and counseling through the whole pregnancy, even after delivery. And so the Sweet Success, it's a program that is designed to help mothers that have developed gestational diabetes in the pregnancy. So my main role with the Sweet Success is to educate them if they don't have controlled sugar levels, because we do advise them to, after they do like the 2-hour glucose test or the 3-hour glucose test, and that comes back up high, I educate them like, you have to check your glucose fasting 1 hour later after your first bite for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Though it's important that those numbers are within the normal range. Otherwise, you put yourself at risk with preeclampsia, baby, growing larger than normal, or just, it leads to other more complications. And they also share like, I'm stressed about all of this. So I also provide the education like, hey, stress is cortisol. It's a hormone, and it can also elevate your glucose numbers. So I help them with that as well. Now, about the nutrition part, there is a PDF that is called Food Guide. It tells, well, let me see how I can rephrase this. I work by the patient's schedule. So if a patient tells me I go to bed at night, every night around 10 p.m., I have them have breakfast no more than 10 hours that go by the following morning. So I provide them a schedule at every hour they should be eating. And that food guide also includes a list of foods they can have by portion. And it has pictures about how to serve it in cups as well. Also, I use the steps to take, my gestational diabetes, and then what else do I provide them? the eating out Sweet Success, because I don't know if, I hope you guys are all in California, but California is a fast-paced life. We're really busy, especially mothers that have more children. They're always on the go, always like, I don't have time to make all these meals. So if you are going to go eat out, I provide them this list of places they can eat, the foods they can choose from the menu, educate them about that. And also educate them about the snacks that they should have before going to bed, because that can also lead to a high glucose level in the morning, especially fasting. I'm trying to think what else, because there's a lot of things that I cover. It just depends the state of mind of that patient at that moment. So sometimes it's really quick, they don't have any questions, and some of them just have a lot of questions.
Yeah, and we're always going to have questions. I still have questions. I'm learning a lot today as well. Like, I didn't know about the queso fresco. Like, I didn't realize that was unsafe. I guess I didn't think about it as unpasteurized milk for whatever reason, although that's literally what it is. But,
Yeah.
yeah, and I didn't know about the listeria crossing of the placenta either. So some great informational gems that we learned from you all today. And thank you, Stephanie, for contributing your information.
Thank you.
I would love, Stephanie, I would love to share about your organization and share your resources as well. I put my information in the chat. We are located in Southern California. We have our Healthy Start program in San Bernardino. We also have one in Riverside and San Diego as well. So I'd love to spread about your organization and the education that you're giving. As I mentioned earlier, the reason why we're hosting this webinar was as a result of some community input we got from an assessment that we put out, and they said they wanted more education about nutrition. So we're making sure that this year we're being intentional about sharing that information with them and educating them to make sure they have a safe pregnancy and a healthy postpartum period as well. And in May, we'll be hosting during Women's Health Month another nutritional webinar, and that'll be focused on nutrition through the entire reproductive lifespan. So we hope everyone can make it there as well. But if there's no more questions for today, I will close this out and give you guys back 13 minutes of your Friday.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It was nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, great
so
job,
much.
students, on your first webinar. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Mhm.